You are watching Platinum Northwest TV News. Good evening. I'm Philadelphia Mangoeng. These are the news making headlines. Deputy President Mashatile continues investment drive abroad, and Northwest Premier appoints Virginia Tlhapi as MEC of Arts, Culture, Sports and Recreation. In the business news, President Ramaphosa launched the second phase of the business and government partnership in order to address key challenges. And in the sports news, PSL is set to elect a new executive committee. We begin here. Deputy President Mashatile addressed the Standard Bank infrastructure-focused dialogue in London in the hopes of bringing more investment into South Africa.
The government plans to prioritize the investment in infrastructure through improvements in the infrastructure pipeline, the execution of that pipeline, and the financing thereof. Mobilizing private sector resources ought to augment public sector capability, and finances are necessary to fast-track the provision of infrastructure and improve effectiveness. The government has initiated various reforms to systematically crowd in greater public sector participation to improve spending and delivery outcomes. The South African government has a huge financing gap for the infrastructure portfolio that could further require more funding. As reflected in the budget review of this year, or rather let me say the budget review of 2023-24, total infrastructure, as we said earlier, or infrastructure investment planned by government over the next 3 years amounts to almost 943 billion rands. The National Treasury is attempting to raise fundings from both the public sector for the public sector projects that are funded through what they call the Budget Facility for Infrastructure, BFI, using blended finance instruments that include concessional financing from NDBs and also development partner countries. The MDBs and development partners have been invited to participate in the current BFI window and to also share their financing frameworks. The National Treasury is in the process of screening the projects that could potentially be funded. As the finance institution, we urge you, Standard Bank, to participate in funding some of the projects once the projects have been approved for BFI funding.
Now, Mashatile told guests that two prominent initiatives are the introduction of an independent power transmission model and establishment of a credit guarantee vehicle to de-risk projects.
The two prominent initiatives are the introduction of an independent power transmission model and establishment of a credit guarantee vehicle to de-risk projects. Moreover, the Cabinet last year agreed for the private sector to complement Eskom in speeding up investments in the transmission grid to meet the country's requirement of 14,000 kilometers of transmission lines in the next 10 years. The National Treasury, working with the Minister of Energy and Electricity, Eskom, and other departments, are piloting an independent power transmission model that will help to crowd in private sector investments in transmission infrastructure through a build, own, operate, and transfer model. The government, through the Independent Power Producer Office, is expected to go out to the market to tender at the end of this year. The South African Renewable Energy, the Just Energy Transition Implementation Plan, is our roadmap that aims to meet South Africa's decarbonization commitments in a manner that delivers just outcomes for those affected by the energy transition and contributes to inclusive economic growth, energy security, and employment. As you know, that in some of our provinces like Mpumalanga, many people are employed in the coal mines. The Just Energy Transition Project Management Unit in the Presidency has introduced a funding platform to facilitate funding from multiple sources and 11.5 billion US dollars in international pledges into clean energy projects. It provides and supports the roadmap for Just Energy Transition Investment Plan implementation, convince role players, and builds partnership for Just Energy Transition IP delivery, guides sources of finance to address the Just Energy Transition IP needs, and ensures transparent monitoring and evaluation of Just Energy Transition IP delivery.
In other news, following the resignation of Colin Maine as the member of the Executive Council responsible for Arts, Culture, Sports and Recreation Premier of the Northwest Province, Lazarus Mokgotsi has appointed Virginia Tlhapi as the new MEC for Arts, Culture, Sports and Recreation. MEC Tlhapi was sworn in by the Provincial Acting Judge President Henry Peterson. MEC Tlhapi, who is not new to the department, pleaded for the same support she enjoyed previously and also given to the former MEC Colin Maine. In more news, police are investigating a case of malicious damage to property of buses at 2 depots in Bojanala in Mangoeng. 6 buses were reportedly burnt yesterday. Now, according to police, another 17 buses were set alight at the Tlhapi, also Bojanala Bus depot. Police say the damage of a total of 23 buses belonging to the Bojanala Bus Company have been estimated to the value of 69 million rand. The Northwest MEC responsible for the portfolio of community safety and transport management, Vessels Mangoeng, has implored on police to expedite investigations into what appears to be an arson. Police in Mangoeng request community assistance with regards to the matter. Moving on to international news now. As of Tuesday, the 1st of October, Claudia Sheinbaum has been elected, or rather becomes, the constitutional president of the United Mexican States. The former mayor of Mexico City is the country's first woman president, and also the first president of Jewish heritage. She has assured the Mexican nation that she will govern for all, and rest assured that she will put her knowledge, strength, history and her life at the service of the people and the country. She takes over from the former President Andrés Manuel López Obrador. Now, the 62-year-old climate scientist is set to serve a 6-year term ending in 2030. Let's take a look at the historic moment when she took an oath of office.
Honorable Congreso de la Unión, Pueblo de México, protesto guardar y hacer guardar la Constitución Política de los Estados Unidos Mexicanos y las leyes que de ella emanen, y desempeñar leal y patrióticamente el cargo de Presidenta de la República que el pueblo me ha conferido, mirando en todo por el bien y prosperidad de la Unión, y si así no lo hiciere, que la nación me lo demande.
that, let's take a look now at the business news. In the business news, President Cyril Ramaphosa says that though continued collaboration between government and business, the country can achieve an economic growth target of 3% by next year as envisaged by business. Now, Ramaphosa, on behalf of government, launched the second phase of the business and government partnerships to address key challenges that hinder the country's growth prospects.
Now, through this partnership, and we have a number of partnerships with yourselves as business. We have other partnerships with labor, with the religious communities, with social movements. But with this partnership, we have worked very well to mobilize the skills, the talent, the expertise and goodwill that exists in our country behind a single task: to grow our economy and to create jobs. That has been our single and most important objective. Now, this evening is an opportunity to reflect on the progress that we have made and to recommit ourselves to this joint effort. And that is why when Adrian and them and Kolisi and them said, we want to have a relaunch of this commitment, I was truly overjoyed. It is true, as Adrian said, that economic growth lies at the heart of everything else that we seek to achieve in our country. Everything is underpinned by a growing economy. And if we can achieve, and which we must, rapid economic growth, we will be able to create jobs, and we will be able to reduce poverty amongst our people. Because with more rapid growth, we can generate more revenue for Minister Godongwane, who is here. I spent a few hours with him this morning as we were discussing the big moment that will soon be coming when he presents the medium-term policy budget statement, and talking about where will growth come? Where will growth come from? Where are we going to direct this economy to create jobs? And so he needs revenue. With that, we can employ more police officers, more nurses, more teachers, and more social workers, and we can expand support, for the most vulnerable in our society. And during the 6th administration, we initiated a program of far-reaching economic reforms through Operation Vulindlela. This was a government-wide initiative to accelerate growth, but also to address and attend to the binding constraints that were holding our economy back from growth. We are now seeing the impact of some of those reforms, and the work that is being done, that is underway, drawing on the efforts of social partners. We have opened up a new era of hope, a new era of promise that many see emerging in our country. And after several years of debilitating load shedding, we are now finally turning a corner on the energy crisis. As a result of the steps that we have taken through the Energy Action Plan, we have experienced a number of days, more than 180 days without load shedding. And a great proof of that is Minister Dr. Ramokgopa, who's here, who's been a real zealot in as far as ensuring that load shedding becomes history in our country. Reforms in the energy sector have also unlocked hundreds of billions of rands.
And that's all from the business news. Up next, we get the latest in the sports. In sporting news, the Premier Soccer League will elect a new executive committee at their general meeting scheduled for mid-November. It's been 4 years since the current committee was voted into their roles. Now, apart from the election of the executive committee, member clubs will also be asked to deliberate recommendations to SAFA. One of the burning issues could be the issue around the qualification for coaches in the professional ranks. SAFA Technical Director Walter Steenbok last year raised eyebrows when he suggested that no coach in the Betway Premiership should sit on the bench without a CAF A license. Steenbok went further by insisting that assistant coach should then also hold a CAF B qualification and that this recommendation should be part of the new NSL rules. Moving on to cricket news, Proteas opener Reeza Hendricks was the big winner at the third SA20 player auction held in Cape Town. The current SA T20 Cricketer of the Year was bought by MI Cape Town for a whopping 4.3 million rand. Hendricks, who previously played for Joburg Super Kings, was the central focus of a bidding war between MI Cape Town and Pretoria Capitals, with the Newlands-based team eventually winning the race. Hendricks' recent good form for the Proteas, having scored 2 successive T20I half-centuries against Ireland last week in Abu Dhabi, would certainly have influenced proceedings today. MI Cape Town faced stiff competition from Pretoria Capitals as the bidding war intensified between the southern and the northern teams. MI Cape Town coach and former Protea spinner Robin Peterson had this to say about the new players signed.
I think the name of the game for us was to get a little bit of experience within the group. I think we did that successfully. Reeza Hendricks adds a lot to the group in terms of his skill. He's international quality cricketer with experience at the top of the order. And then Colin Ingram, I mean, his career speaks for itself. He's always done well traditionally in South Africa in T20 cricket. Also brings hefty experience. And then Dane Pitt, who's in the test match team and the quality off spinner. So we filled gaps, not only in terms of skills, but in terms of...
Now, the league received 580 applications for the remaining 13 slots, along with 6 rookie drafts. And that's all from us for tonight. Thank you so much for watching. The team will be back again tomorrow evening. Till then, good night and take care.